Hello, and welcome to another episode of Research Goes Live, the podcast by the University of Pannonia that focuses on the research of our doctoral students and discusses their importance and impact on our everyday lives. I am your host, Laszlo Gábor Katona, and today we're joined by Patrícia Szabó, a doctoral student from the Faculty of Information Technology. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose to continue your research here at the University of Pannonia.
So, welcome again. My name is Patrícia Szabó. I am a PhD student in the University of Pannonia in Veszprém, and I get my bachelor and my master's degree as well here. I also live 3 years in Budapest and work as an IT engineer, but I realized I wanted to do something more, something to help to the people. That's why I came back to the university and started to study and do my research in health informatics.
That's fantastic. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about the main focus of your research and the technology behind it?
Okay, so this will be a long answer because my research has a lot of aspects. My research topic main gain is to measure the patient mental and physical health state and to rehabilitate those patients who suffer from post-COVID syndromes. A lot of post-COVID symptoms are known, like breathing problem, anxiety, depression, memory disorders, and so on. These were just the most common ones. And these symptoms can last more than 12 weeks. But this more than 12-week data is what we know from the current studies. We doesn't know the end date yet. Mm-hmm. So our research focusing on the breathing problems and the memory disorders, or you can call it brain fog.
So this is where the brain fog comes in.
Yes. I also work together with a psychologist who observed that the patient afraid to do exercises after COVID short brainless symptoms. And until this point, I only talked about healthcare. Mm-hmm. But here comes the IT part as a solution for this problem. Our plan is to create a calm environment with virtual reality device and observing the breathing pattern and monitor the pulse during the exercises. Mm-hmm. And from that, our first research question will be, is that with this method, will the patient be calmer? Can the VR environment help the patient to be more relaxed and concentrated to the task? And of course, based that, we will measure more health data and make a conclusion about that.
Oh, that's interesting. So if I understand correctly, VR would then be used to assist in the rehabilitation process. So how exactly does that work and what type of hardware is necessary for this?
So I mentioned we will measure data first, but after that we will do rehabilitation as well. So we will develop serious game for this purpose. For the VR, we have the glasses, of course, the VR glasses, mm-hmm. And the device also has a microphone and 2 controllers, so we will use this hardware. So, for example, in case of the breathing rehabilitation, we will use the device microphone to control the game. For example, the task will be to blow a balloon, and the microphone can measure the quantity. To restudy the normal breathing pattern, we will also use the microphone for this purpose.
Interesting. Okay. And then will the VR headset itself record this, or will it be recorded through an application, or how does that work?
We will do both ways because we want to compare more options, like mobile phone and VR device as well. So the VR device microphone will record this, but for another method, the mobile phone.
Interesting.
Microphone.
So this is a great idea because we're already dealing with technology that people will most likely have with them. Mm-hmm. So that's great. So I noticed that the main impetus for your research was the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
Now, were there other areas, or do you see other areas that this technology could be utilized in?
The main idea was coming from the COVID, but this game can be also used for other diseases rehabilitation. In case of breathing difficulties, it can be used for patients with COPD or with asthma, where the patient have breathing-related problems. It can be also used for just relaxation, meditation, or for people who has anxiety. Because all in these 3 cases, the main goal is the proper breathing technique.
Right.
And in case of the memory disorders, it can be also good for people who suffer from Alzheimer, dementia, or just for anyone who wants to improve their memory. Both for adults and both for children.
Yes, I seem to remember a few years ago reading an article that dealt with an application that was developed for Alzheimer's to help Alzheimer's patients remember family members and friends.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So when you're conducting research on this topic, you're probably going to need a very particular sample population. So how will you go about finding the people who can meet this criteria?
I think in every research, it's kind of difficult to find the right sample population and people who are willing to cooperate. Not to mention the legal part, of course.
Of course.
During the development part, we will test it with friends and relatives. For the first test, we will find the students who is volunteering. And for the finale, luckily, we have connection with the SHOTE, the Samalvat University and clinics, where we can test it, and the patient, and of course, the patient can use it in the future for rehabilitation.
Right. And what type of methods will you be using?
For this sample?
Yes, and for the sample and just for your research in general.
Okay, like I mentioned, we just want to first test it in healthy people in all age. And for the finale, this is the most important one. So we will test it here as well in healthy people in different ages. And of course, in people who had post-COVID symptoms. And then we can discuss this.
Compare the two.
Compare the two.
So that, that's great, because then from what I can tell, the healthy population is going to be your control group.
Yes, that will be the control group.
Fantastic. And your research opens up this much needed discussion in modernizing healthcare in many places around the world, including here in Hungary. So how can your research and the associated technology make healthcare more efficient, effective, and accessible?
I think in this modern world, with a lot of IT solutions, we do not take advantage of them in the healthcare system. So not everybody has a VR device, right? Because it's expensive. But most of the people have smartphone. And how cool it would be if after your doctor shows you the proper rehabilitation exercises, you can do that at home alone as well, and you can get feedback about your technique. And your doctor can also get notification from your current health state and can consult with you when it's needed.
That's really fantastic. And I think that really strikes at the heart of modernizing healthcare and how we can move forward and also make healthcare more accessible for people that live in more remote areas and may have difficulty getting to a hospital or getting to the doctors. How soon do you think something like this could be on the market and ready for patient use?
Our target time is to finish this project is 2 or 3 years. But I hope in the future a lot of similar solutions will be available in the healthcare as well. So not just our project.
Can you tell us a little bit about the VR headset itself? Like, what does it look like?
So the VR headset is actually a glasses where you can see this VR environment. It will be similar than your current environment because we want to create a calm environment for this purpose. And of course, you have these two controllers where you can grab things with this, like imitate your hands to be more realistic.
And this is fascinating because I've heard of gamification in education and gamification in the business world. But now we're also introducing gamification into this concept of healthcare and through your studies in information technology. In our previous discussions, you mentioned why you felt passionate about healthcare, IT, and contributing to the greater good. So can you tell us a little bit about this?
During my bachelor and master studies as well, I always worked on health informatics topics. So during my bachelor studies, I developed a serious game to rehabilitate the fine finger movement with the help of a tablet or a mobile phone for people who had stroke. During my master, I created a serious game to teach preschool children who has diabetic. I think I always wanted to do something important, something that can help to the people. Actually, I know it's not too much, but I have a favorite quote from a book called Cloud Atlas. Based on this is how I do my job and live my life. So this quote goes like this: my life amounts to no more than one drop in a limitless ocean. Yet, what is any ocean but a multitude of drops?
And when we had our discussion, you also mentioned that you worked with this group in collaboration for autism, an international group. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Like you said, I also part of an international working group where the main goal is to help people with autism. Here we are creating teaching materials in all kinds of aspects. So, for example, in my case, we're creating materials for IT specialists and which aspect they need to consider it when they develop something to be good for people with autism as well. But in this working group, there are a lot of people from different areas like healthcare or teachers and so on. So this is a good opportunity to get a new perspective.
That's really terrific. And your this group of students with autism,
Yes.
would these be younger children, or are we also talking about adults?
Any kind of people. So we're focusing on children and adults as well.
Oh, that's really noble, and that's really a wonderful thing. And you also mentioned this passion that you have driving you, that it's not just about healthcare, but this mentality that there are so few females in IT. Can you talk about this a little bit?
Yes, unfortunately, a few women work in the IT, and I think it's really sad. I always want to inspire more young ladies to join to the IT. So I'm always happy if somebody comes to the university and looking for me for help, because I think in this world it's not just for men. Women can also be part of the IT world.
Absolutely. And you're setting a great example, and you're going to be a terrific role model for so many young females who are aspiring
I
in
hope so.
information
I hope
technology.
so.
Oh, I can see. I know so. And as you mentioned already, what impact will this research have on our everyday lives?
I think for this answer is easy, because unfortunately everyone needs to have support at some stage in their life. So we need to always focus on healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And with IT solution, it can be more cheaper in some kind of respect, and doctor has more time because IT can help them.
I would also imagine that IT is going to help in processing the data.
Yes, of course, it's already
Mhm.
in the healthcare system, but yes, we can develop more.
Do you see any future when it comes to this type of technology and diagnosing?
We know a lot about in this topic as well currently, so it can be used as well.
Now, what other new questions have arisen that you would like to investigate further because of your research?
Actually, every day we figure out something new. What I've talked about it so far is the current state. As we go forward in the research, we always realize something new. We have new ideas, and that's just fine. And this is the way how it should go in the world of IT, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's like what one innovation opens the door to several others.
Yes.
Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I want to continue this research area, and I want to stay in the university as well.
Have you found this love of teaching as well while you've been at the university?
Yes, actually, yes. It's surprising me because I never thought about myself as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but I really enjoy it.
Well, from everything that I can tell, not only will you just be a fantastic teacher and a researcher, but because of your background and your passion for IT and healthcare, you're going to be a wonderful role model for many youngsters and especially young women. Well, Patrícia, this has been a wonderful discussion, and thank you so much for joining us today on Research Goes Live. And we'd like to remind all of our listeners to join us next week when we talk about the synergy between applied mathematics and fault detection. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.